Hey everyone. Okay, so I want to mention a couple of things to clarify on Filipino Tagalog. Now, mind you, this is different from Cebuano because usually when people talk about Filipino these days, you can differentiate the northern dialects, which is kind of more or less gravitating toward Tagalog, to the southern dialects, which gravitate towards Cebuano, and differentiate the two. So I'm going to be discussing the kind of Filipino that is originating from the Manila area in Luzon. Okay, so I'm actually half Luzonese and half Visayan. My father is from the Pampanga area and also from Ilocos, while my mother is from the Western Visayas area. So I have, kind of a feel for both dialects. For actually, they're considered languages according to Wikipedia. Cebuano and Tagalog are separate languages, so I have a feel for both of those. But I will focus more on the Tagalog. Okay. So what I want to do today is kind of tell you a little bit about particles in Filipino so that you can learn about what these different particles are, because I think that a lot of people get confused about what all of these particles are in Filipino. Where do they come from and why are they there? Okay, so I mentioned in another video the particle ng. This is probably one of the most important ones in Tagalog because it's a possessive particle. I mentioned an example in another video saying aking libro, meaning my book, and I was saying ako is modified to aki, so it becomes my book. But another example of this could be like aking pusa, which is saying my cat, or aking puso, which puso actually comes from the Spanish word pulso, which means pulse, but in this case it means heart. So aking puso means my heart. Aking puso. So there are a ton of different things that you can do. Aking pag-ibig, my love, things like that. So nang has this possessive particle, is a possessive particle and has a possessive power. You can flip it around, but I will, leave that up to discussion if you'd like to talk to me about that in my tutoring sessions on italki. Again, I will include that link in my description box below if you're interested in taking lessons with me. I want to move on to another particle, ba. I do believe strongly that this particle came from China because this particle ba is very similar to the question mark word, to the question marker in Chinese ba, also ma, which has a question marking power to a sentence in order to turn it into a question. Although ba has a little bit of a different connotation, sometimes in Filipino that connotation is still there and still like practically existent and identical. Ba, however, at the end, if you hear ba, nevertheless, if you hear ba at the end of a sentence, it's going to be a question. So I'm going to say, for example, ito ay aking libro ba? Is this my book? I put ba at the end because, usually you would put ba at the end. Now, there are other languages that have this kind of, the other Asian languages that have this kind of particle. Like, for example, in Japanese, there's the particle ka, which means that something's a question as well at the end. But in Filipino, ba, adding ba to the sentence turns it into a question, especially if it has a running indentation that goes up. So ba is a question marker. Okay. Now there are a few other ones. For example, si. Okay. Now, si is not a word that it doesn't mean the Spanish word yes. Okay. And it also doesn't mean the Spanish word if. So please, please, please don't get confused with that. I understand that there are, some people in the Philippines who can speak some Chavacano languages, and maybe their Spanish is a little bit stronger when they speak their form of Filipino. But in standard Tagalog, si is not going to be if or yes. It's actually going to be pointing to a person. So if I say si, I'm going to be pointing to a person. It's a person pointer. Okay, so this particle is a person pointer. Another particle is ni. Okay, do not get confused with the particle ni in Japanese, which is saying that something is happening. It's going to happen with regards to a certain place. Okay, so don't confuse that. Ni is actually also similar to si in that it is regarding a person as well. But it's not a person pointer at the beginning of a sentence, but usually it's a person pointer in the middle of a sentence. Okay? And then there are a couple of other things, like for example, ko and ka. If you have ko at the end of a sentence, it's usually going to be meaning that I'm talking about something that's regarding me. This is actually not really a particle per se. Okay? There is actually an active form for some pronouns and a passive form for some pronouns, but there are also contracted forms of pronouns. And in this case, ko is just a contracted form of ako. But if I put it at the end of a sentence, I'm really going to be denoting that something is regarding me. Okay? And then there's also ka. Ka is a contracted form of the word ikaw. If you end a sentence with ka, please don't get confused. It is not the same as the ka from Japanese, marking a question. It is simply denoting that something is regarding you. All right? And there is also the particle sa. Sa is a particle that is denoting something that is happening at somewhere. So these are almost like all like different prepositions, and I haven't covered all of them, okay? But if you, again, would like to cover a few more of them with me, please feel free to sign up for some general tutoring sessions with me on italki on my link that I added in the description box below. And otherwise, I do hope that you all have a great day. Thank you for watching this video, and please subscribe on my channel to see more videos from me regarding Filipino and other topics that I might post in the future. So thank you so much for all of your support, and I love you all. Bye!